Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Phantom Curiosities. Today's episode is about none other than Uncle KLUNK. If you haven't heard of him, it's an animatronic, really creepy childhood character. This character was an abomination and a nightmare. Before there was Chuck E. Cheese, there was Showbiz Pizza's The Rockefeller explosion of characters. So let's get into this super creepy character named Uncle KLUNK and the creepy tales behind him. Uncle KLUNK was the first character to be introduced to the Rockefeller explosion by Creative Engineering Inc. The Rockefeller explosion was an animatronic character band that appeared in Showbiz Pizza Place restaurants from 1980 to 1992. Since 1992, independent companies and people have been preserving it, and one still view the show in various locations around the world where it's still in operation to this day. This band of animatronic characters of various animals included a brown bear, a gray wolf, a silverback gorilla, and they performed melodies of classic rock, pop, and country music, as well as original comedic skits. The show was created and manufactured by inventor Aaron Felcher through his company Creative Engineering Inc. in Orlando, Florida. In addition to overseeing the production of animatronics, Felcher provided several of the characters' voices. When Showbiz Pizza rebranded in 1992, the band was replaced by Chuck E. Cheese characters. So the Rockefeller explosion is what inspired Chuck E. Cheese. The Rockefeller Explosion show was sold to other restaurants and entertainment centers such as Circus Pizza, Pistol Pete's Pizza, and Billy Bob's Wonderland. The show was pioneering in many respects to other animatronic shows in the early 80s. The life-size characters were capable of facial expressions, and some could even play simple melodies on musical instruments. At the end of the show's tenure, Chuck E. Cheese marketing director Joel Kamen credited Rockefeller with being largely responsible for Showbiz's success. But included in the Rockefeller explosion by Creative Engineering Inc., KLUNK was quite a strange character that was described as an abomination in the shows. Beneath his goofy and bizarre persona, he was the most sophisticated animatronic character produced by CEI at the time. With nearly twice the number of movements of any other character, he could actually pick up a telephone or a banana from a conveniently placed fruit basket. Less than 50 of Uncle KLUNKs were produced and could do this, which meant not every store received one, or at least not at the same time. The idea was for KLUNK to be a traveling character, appearing for a few months in a particular location and later being removed and placed in another store. Uncle, also known as Clarence KLUNK, was described to be a wacky talk show host. KLUNK was originally voiced by Jeff Claude Howell, a musician who helped perform the instrumentation behind the Rockefeller explosion, and he previously sang backup vocals. Aaron Felcher, who was always sympathetic to the fact that Howell had been without a character voice, despite his heavy involvement behind the scenes, such as KLUNK was designed to look like an exaggeration caricature of Howell himself. Jeff Howell's portrayal of Uncle KLUNK was dim-witted and, well, it was just an abomination. He was even billed as the Uncle KLUNK Abomination, with a special animated abomination sign that would drop down behind his stage valance. Howell's KLUNK character had a very genuine feel. He really seemed like he was portraying an aspect of himself rather than any specific character. With the trademark expression of koosh, he would perform special segments such as Culture Corner, Sports Time, The News, and Dear Uncle KLUNK. Bert Wilson performed the voice of Uncle KLUNK's Bird, his mother, and a few other voices. Together they recorded the initial KLUNK demo shows, which were roughly produced and filled with bad jokes and inside humor. Uncle KLUNK was met with mixed reactions, first from Showbiz Pizza Place and later by the customers themselves. Showbiz Pizza was a bit disappointed with the initial KLUNK shows recorded by Hal and asked creative to hire a professional company to write and produce the skits. The end result was a completely different version of KLUNK that sounded eerily reminiscent of Walt Disney's Goofy character. His bird clique was also renamed Murray D. Bird and given a mean-spirited personality. This incarnation was the version that actually made it into restaurants and was billed by Showbiz as the funniest robot science has ever made. Despite having Showbiz's approval, KLUNK never quite received the approval of audiences. We were concerned with the obvious need to change the character, but KLUNK hasn't set the world on fire as I hoped he could have, Fetcher once stated. He also made statements regarding the poor promotion made by Showbiz for Uncle KLUNK's character as contributing to his failure. After his initial run, KLUNK also appeared in the second show tape titled Country KLUNK, which was a variation of Rockefeller's Country 2 tape. Once again, KLUNK was featured with a different voice, this time being performed by Sean Fernandez. The tape variation showed Showbiz stores to have a new material whether they featured KLUNK or whether they had Rolf and Earl instead. For this particular tape, KLUNK's outfit was updated to include a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and a southern-style string tie. Ultimately, Uncle KLUNK was a commercial failure. Some customers even reported hearing him go off and shout out random numbers that some of the mechanics couldn't even understand how the robot could even perform this. Revenues failed to increase in locations where KLUNK was installed, and public response was unenthusiastic. The only other character to appear as Showbiz in the early days was Santa Claus, which is merely a cosmetic change-out for KLUNK. However, in fairness, it could be noted that during Uncle KLUNK's tenure, Showbiz was facing serious financial difficulty, and the strain put an end to any further development of Uncle KLUNK, as well as future characters and advancements to come out of CEI's research and development department. A second traveling character had been in development. It was an animatronic version of Paul McCartney, but partly because of Uncle KLUNK's dismal reception, it never made it into production. After the merge between Pizza Time Theater and Showbiz Pizza Place in 1985, the newly formed company Showbiz Pizza Time began working on their own entertainment projects without the help of CEI. A few of their test market concepts involved utilizing Uncle KLUNK's character mechanics that they still owned, yet no longer had the real use for. Because most pizza places that have animatronic characters should draw in the attention of children and entertain them at these restaurants. One of the projects was called Orwell, A Robot You Control, where retired Uncle KLUNK had his own cosmetics literally sliced in half to expose the inner animatronics. Orwell was placed into the game room where guests could press different buttons on a panel in front of him to trigger his different movements and watch how they worked. Another project involving Uncle KLUNK was the creation of a new character named Uncle Pappy. Pappy looked exactly like Uncle KLUNK, only he had a pair of glasses, a large orange beard, and a blacked out tooth, and wore a red shirt with overalls. Similar to Orwell, Pappy was also placed in the showroom. His shtick involves singing short songs and giving basic advice to kids, do's and don'ts, save your pennies, how to cross the street, etc. And he was voiced by Scott Wilson, the longtime voice of Chuck E. Cheese. So that is the tale of the creepiest abomination of our childhood nightmares in animatronics, Uncle KLUNK, that showcased an some pizza places across the US. This is absolutely terrifying. There's videos of people's experiences working around this pizza place and around this animatronic character. There's also videos on TikTok and online of people that still can see some of these animatronic Uncle Clunk pieces being in production and moving, and it's so terrifying. I cannot believe Uncle Clunk exists, and this terrifying character, maybe even more terrifying than Mr. Blobby in my opinion, that we covered in a previous Phantom Curiosities episode. Leave me a comment down below on what other things you would love to see in Phantom Curiosities. I try to do these at least once a month. I have so much fun. Thank you all so much for subscribing and watching these videos. Uncle Clunk is obviously terrifying. It's probably gonna haunt my nightmares, especially after I turned into him. I will see you guys in the next video, in the next episode. Bye. Sweet dreams.